childhood home in October. It wasn't a sentimental decision, not really. The area was cheap, the house had been empty for 3 years, and I knew the layout better than any surveyor ever would. I grew up there. I knew which floorboards creaked. I knew which windows jammed in the cold. I knew every room, or I thought I did. The plan was simple: gut the ground floor, new electrics, new flooring, make it livable again. The house had been let out twice since my parents sold it in the early 2000s. Both tenants left within a year. The realtor listed that as a coincidence. I didn't think much of it at the time. I started in the hallway, pulled up the carpet, found the original boards underneath, most of them sound. Then I moved to the room that used to be mine. It was smaller than I remembered. They always are. The wallpaper was the same, faded now, but the same pattern. Little sailboats. I must have stared at those every night for the first 12 years of my life. I started on the far wall, the one beneath the stairs. There was a section of plasterboard that didn't match the rest. I almost missed it. The wallpaper had been papered over it seamlessly, or someone had tried to make it seamless, but the seam was there if you looked. A rectangle about 1 meter wide and half a meter tall, set low into the wall just above the skirting board. I pressed on it. It gave slightly, hollow behind it. I pulled the wallpaper back. The plasterboard had been screwed in. Someone had put this here deliberately. I told myself it was probably a pipe access panel, something routine, something boring. I got my drill. Behind the panel was a crawl space running under the staircase, low ceiling, dirt floor. Maybe 2 meters deep, the kind of space that exists in old houses without anyone really deciding it should. I shone my torch in. The beam caught something at the back, a shape, then another. I didn't move for a moment, just held the torch steady. Then I climbed in. They were arranged in a line along the back wall, 7 of them, a small wooden engine, a painted tin soldier, a one-eyed stuffed bear, a red racing car, die-cast with a dent on the rear left corner that I put there myself when I was 6 years old, a plain wooden figure, featureless, a small cloth doll, a green die-cast truck. I knew every single one of them. These were my toys. Toys I hadn't seen since childhood. Toys I assumed had been thrown away, or lost in the move, or simply forgotten. They were sitting in a neat row, upright, facing forward. I picked up the tin soldier, turned it over in my hands. There was no dust on it, not on any of them. I ran my finger along the wooden engine, nothing. The dirt floor around them was undisturbed. The space had been sealed, properly sealed. And yet the toys looked like someone had arranged them that morning. I sat in that crawl space for a long time. I don't know what made me look at the wall. Maybe I was checking the condition of the brickwork. Maybe something just felt unfinished. I swept the torch along the interior face of the sealed panel, the side that had been facing inward, the side nobody would ever see once it was screwed shut. The marks were low down, near the floor, scratch marks, long dragged lines in the plasterboard, some of them deep enough to have broken through to the paper backing. They ran in clusters like fingers, 4 or 5 tracks close together, repeated, overlapping. I leaned closer. The scratches were on the inside. The panel had been sealed from the outside. Whatever made these marks had been in the crawl space when the panel went on, or had gotten in some other way. And then I noticed something else. The edges of the scratch marks, where the plasterboard had torn and curled back slightly. The material wasn't brittle, it wasn't aged. Those scratches weren't old. I backed out of the crawl space. I sat on the floor of that room for a while, the room I'd slept in every night as a child, the room with the sailboat wallpaper. I sat there with the torch in my lap, and I tried to think clearly. The panel had been sealed. I found the original planning notes in a folder in the loft. The previous owners, not my parents, had done some structural work in 2003. The crawl space was listed as a void space, access sealed for safety. 2003. My toys had been in there since before that, since my parents sold the house, since before I was a teenager. But the scratch marks weren't from 2003. I know what aged plasterboard damage looks like. I'd spent 3 weeks stripping this house back. I knew the difference between something that had been sitting for 20 years and something that hadn't. Someone or something had been scratching at that panel from the inside recently. and the toys were still clean. I took the toys out. I don't know why. It felt wrong to leave them in there. I put them in a box, and I put the box in my car. I rescrewed the panel. I papered over it. I made it look exactly as it had when I'd found it. Then I drove to a motel, and I stayed there for 4 nights. I've been back to the house since. I'm still renovating it. I haven't touched that wall again. The toys are still in the box in my car. I keep meaning to take them inside. I haven't been able to bring myself to do it. I don't know what was in that crawl space. I don't know how my toys ended up there, or why there was no dust on them, or who sealed that panel and when. I don't know what made those marks. What I know is that I grew up in that house. I slept 15 feet from that wall every night for 12 years, and whatever was in there the whole time. Passenger file, number 13, closed. The house is quiet now, most nights anyway. The train moves on, and some passengers never really leave. Next stop, unknown.